Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this December 23rd, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can get my show every evening, Monday through Friday, Pacific Time, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. They also play the show at 11 a.m., and if you can't get it there, go to my long-standing website at arcticon.com, and you can get shows going back over a decade in what I call the Vatican-led New World Order, all its ramifications, and how its tentacles spread throughout the entire world to create this chaos we're living under. Now, first thing how about my Jesuit quotes about the Jesuits? I do that every day for a while now. And I want to continue, and this is from an article written by Mike Bellinger called Resident Evil, okay? And I'm going to read a few paragraphs of it because it really does hit the nail on the head here regarding the Jesuits. He says, quote, "But the Jesuits have a much darker rationale behind all the world conflicts they have overseen in the last 600 years. This guy gets it. They have used all of these various wars as cover-ups for their mass exterminations of Protestants and all other non-Catholic peoples of the world. This is the real horror of the Jesuits and the Vatican. They are the most prolific mass murderers in all of human history. And may I add this, Mike? That's why they schooled Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, or should we call him Father Joseph Stalin, a Jesuit priest. No one and nothing else is known human history compares to their record of calculated genocide. Now you know why we must stop this evil. The Vatican, as it is now, is the incarnation of hell itself. There can be no doubt about that." And then he says this. He says, look at some of these atrocities. And of course he goes over the Crusades, the Inquisitions. But one that you may have overlooked, I want to quote him here. He brought this to our attention. Quote, "The massacre of the poor Irish Protestants on October 23rd, 1641, the, quote, feast of Ignatius Loyola, the first Jesuit general." And he says, how fitting a day for a massacre by these bloodthirsty swine. It is estimated that 150,000 Irish Protestants were butchered in the streets and in their homes. This slaughter took place over an 8-year period. Finally, once again, it was Oliver Cromwell who finally invaded Ireland and attacked the Jesuit base at Drogheda, and in a rage exterminated the entire Catholic village of 2,000. Only this invasion finally ended the massacre of the Protestants. The present-day Irish Protestants are still at war with the fanatical Irish Catholic Jesuits, and this is why they need the continued protection of the British Army. So I want to thank Mike Bellinger for those quotes, and we'll get to, thank you, Mike. Okay, on the heels of that, I have to play this 3-minute clip, and this is Prince Charles, who mentions the Muslims and religious persecution, and also Muhammad in his Christmas message to all Brits. Now, we know Prince Charles is going to be the king, and he will then be the head of the Church of England. And this comment he made about Muslims, first of all, about Muhammad, is also wrong. But it's interesting. He's bringing the Jesuit message right to you here. And you're going to hear this. And he's now the Jesuit spokesman, I believe, telling us really what's going to happen. Listen to Prince Charles, and this just happened yesterday. 3 minutes. Well worth listening to.
In London recently, I met a Jesuit priest from Syria. He gave me a graphic account of what life is like for those Christians he was forced to leave behind. He told me of mass kidnappings in parts of Syria and Iraq, and how he feared that Christians would be driven en masse out of lands described in the Bible. He thought it quite possible there would be no Christians in Iraq within 5 years. Clearly, for such people, religious freedom is a daily stark choice between life and death. The scale of religious persecution around the world is not widely appreciated, nor is it limited to Christians in the troubled regions of the Middle East. recent report suggests that attacks are increasing on Yazidis, Jews, Ahmadis, Baha'is, and many other minority faiths. And in some countries, even more insidious forms of extremism have recently surfaced, which aim to eliminate all types of religious diversity. We are also struggling to capture the immensity of the ripple effect of such persecution. According to the United Nations, 5.8 million more people abandoned their homes in 2015 than the year before, bringing the annual total to a staggering 65.3 million. That is almost equivalent to the entire population of the United Kingdom. And the suffering doesn't end when they arrive seeking refuge in a foreign land. We are now seeing the rise of many populist groups across the world that are increasingly aggressive towards those who adhere to a minority faith. All of this has deeply disturbing echoes of the dark days of the 1930s. I was born in 1948, just after the end of World War II, in which my parents' generation had fought and died in a battle against intolerance, monstrous extremism, and an inhuman attempt to exterminate the Jewish population of Europe. That nearly 70 years later, we should still be seeing such evil persecution is, to me, beyond all belief. We owe it to those who suffered and died so horribly not to repeat the horrors of the past. Normally, at Christmas, we think of the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. I wonder, though, if this year we might remember how the story of the Nativity unfolds with the fleeing of the Holy Family to escape violent persecution. And we might also remember that when the Prophet Muhammad migrated from Mecca to Medina, he did so because he too was seeking the freedom for himself and his followers to worship. Whichever religious path we follow, the destination is the same: to value and respect the other person, accepting their right to live out their peaceful response to the love of God. That's what I saw when attending the consecration of the Syriac Orthodox Cathedral in London recently. Here were a people persecuted for their religion in their own country, but finding refuge in another land and freedom to practice their faith according to their conscience. It is an example to inspire us all this Christmas time.
Okay, there's a lot to that message. And let me say this, that he starts out by giving the Jesuit priest the forum. You know he's talking about the Jesuit plan, and if you understand what they work both sides of the fence here. And his message was very clear. He started to say that Muhammad fled to Mecca and Medina for freedom of religion. So what he's really saying is, first of all, he's talking about how Christians are being persecuted all over the world. He doesn't give hope that it'll end or start saying we must fight against the aggressor, the radical Islam. No, he gives you an idea that radical Islam is searching for peace. They're searching for their religious freedom. It's just the opposite. And you can see this Jesuitism work here. And it just shocked me that he made these kind of statements. So, look, let's put it all in perspective here in the United States. Okay? For the last 8 years, Obama's done everything to weaken this country. From not taking care of our military, from having a foreign policy that supports Iran, the biggest state terrorist in the world. And one thing after another was dividing our country. It's creating this racial division that that is overblown. There's a hatred towards policemen. Policemen don't want to even go into certain neighborhoods now. See how many have been shot lately? So there's this whole idea, and I said yesterday on my show, countries of Europe are being weakened as well. Look at all the leaders that are getting kicked out right now. Renzi, Merkel very quickly because of allowing 1.2 million refugees into her country, many unvetted. And look what's going on there. Look what's going on in France. The leader of France will be ousted. They already had Brexit, so they're saying, enough of this. And we know there's almost 45 Sharia courts that are allowed to exist now in London. Who's the mayor of London now? A Muslim. And when we keep going up north, you're going to see the same problem. And I've got a couple things here that I want to bring to you. One by a filmmaker, Ami Horowitz, who recently went to Sweden, and you're going to be shocked when you hear what he found out. And also, he previously went to Minneapolis in Minnesota to bring it closer to home. And you're going to see that the idea of Sharia law coming to our country is not something that we should shy, that we have to take this seriously. So I'm going to have to refer back to a book. And I want you to get this book, or at least read the reviews. And it's regarding, his name is Dr. Peter Hammond. And he presented a book called Slavery, Terrorism, and Islam. And he documents the way Muslims slowly develop a presence in various countries. And as their population numbers build, become more aggressive and assertive about exercising Sharia law. Now we know what Sharia law is. It's intolerant to any other law. Many Muslims in our country right now do not come here to respect the Constitution or to at least live a life away from, killing and murder. They come here because they want to integrate and create Sharia law, create their culture here and overthrow ours. And he said this: Islam is not a religion, nor is it a cult. It is the fullest form. It is, in its fullest form, it is a complete, total, 100% system of life. Dr. Hammond notes in his book, Islam has religious, legal, political, economic, social, and military components. The religious component is a cover for all the other components. And so go to that, because he starts talking and looking worldwide at what happens when Muslim populations increase. What happens is they take over. They're not here to assimilate. Now, every one of the policies of the people, these leaders I talked about, allowed, look at what Obama's doing to our country, bringing in all these refugees without vetting. And this is going on all over Europe. Western civilization is under attack. Now, why did all these leaders at the same time do this? Why was ISIS allowed in the last 8 years to grow and to create that real threat, that cut your head off threat? Why are they allowing all of these mosques and all of these groups like the Fethullah movement, Gulen movement here, where they're actually giving $150 million of taxpayer money for these so-called, in quotes, moderate Muslim schools all over our country? It's a concerted effort in every aspect. And guess who's behind it? The Vatican and the Jesuits. And it's very obvious when you start looking. I said go way back and look at the similarities between Catholic paganism, Catholicism, I call it paganism, and the Quran. I've done a number of shows on that. Now listen, no one knows better how I was deceived. I grew up a Catholic, and I know every one of their little tricks on how they've switched Christianity and turned it into nothing but a pagan religion, Christianity being the cover. And then knowing that, I've also seen how the Quran is similar to Catholicism. Okay, one thing I want to play or talk about before I play a couple clips on Ami Horowitz and how he's discovered what's going on in Sweden and also in Minneapolis, right under our noses. You got to remember, this is the takeover of a country, and what Dr. Hammond refers to as Islamization begins when the population of Muslims reaches a critical mass, and they being to agitate for various privileges. Open, free democratic societies are particularly vulnerable when politically correct, tolerant, and culturally diverse societies agree to Muslim demands for their religious privileges. Some other components lend to creep in as well, he notes. Then he goes on to say how it works. And he goes through populations and shows when they're at low levels, they assimilate. They supposedly assimilate. Now, that's very obvious here. We know the undercurrents that are going on. I've pointed out to you that there's over 30 militant groups functioning in this country right now that are carrying weapons, saying death to America, and the FBI is doing nothing to toss them out of the country. While at the same time, how many times have I brought up how they're persecuting Christians, i.e. the Alamo Ministry, a peace-loving Christian group? It's happening right here before our eyes. So we have a concerted effort to destroy Western civilization. Now, let me play you a couple of these clips to show you how it's playing out in Europe and then what's happening here in the United States. Okay, Ami Horowitz is a Jewish-American filmmaker, and he's doing a documentary about what's really going on in these no zones in Sweden, meaning that if you're not Muslim, you better not go into these zones. They're creating their own Sharia courts. They're creating a system in Sweden that is basically designed to take over that country, just like they're trying in all these other countries, and those leaders are allowing it to happen, controlled by the Jesuits. It's their plan to use Islam to destroy Christianity, just as they did in the Middle East way back when they created Islam, wrote the Quran, and began to exterminate Christianity, which was a threat to the Roman Empire, and Catholic paganism started by, Constantine. So anyway, let's listen to, he just appeared on Fox Business this morning, and I guess you'll be seeing a lot more of it. He hasn't released yet the full documentary, so I thought I'd play this clip to give you an idea what's going on. Now, one other thing. You're not, from NPR, that controlled opposition radio station, and and also CNN and all of these other liberal media outlets. You don't hear this. You don't hear about these no zones. They say, well, they may exist, but they really, we're not sure. Well, Ami Horowitz went there and was assaulted when he was trying to do this, and he knows they exist. Luckily, there's at least one little place you can listen to it on Fox. And I'm not saying they're the bastion of freedom. They're controlled just like CNN. But you see, the Jesuits in this theory, they have to control both sides. But you never get the full story that we give you here. And that's why I recommend you come to my show all the time. Here's Ami Horowitz, if I can get this going. Having a little trouble here. So I'm going to have to straighten this out. Okay, I got it potted up. Here we go.
Guest has just returned from a trip to Europe. He went over there because he wanted to see the migrant crisis firsthand for himself. He went to no-go zones in Sweden. I didn't think there were such places, but there are no-go zones where the police do not go. While he was there, he was jumped by 5, apparently, Islamic thugs. The filmmaker Ami Horowitz is the man who went over there, and he joins us right now. First of all, I didn't know there was any such thing as a no-go zone in a place like Stockholm, Sweden. There is?
I heard about them. The truth is, I didn't actually believe they were real. Right? I figured this is probably some kind of propaganda. Yes. I went there, met with the police officers. They said, when we're pursuing a suspect and they cross that threshold, and there's about 30 or 40 of them in Sweden, they will not pursue. They will simply not pursue.
There are 30 or 40 no-go zones in Swedish towns and cities.
Correct.
30 to 40 of them.
That's right.
Did you say that there were guns being used in these no-go zones?
They used to have, about 5 years ago, the police officers who I met with would say they'd have an incident of gun violence, let's say once a month, once every few months. Every day there's gun violence going on. And it's not simply staying, here's the problem, it's not simply staying in these enclaves, which, by the way, they say are states within states. Swedish law doesn't apply in these places. What they do is they're now coming out, and it's become the rape capital of Europe.
You're kidding me.
No, I kid you not.
But we know nothing about this. Well, we've not heard of it.
That's my job, Stuart.
Yeah,
That's
know,
why I do
we've not
to
heard
inform
of
you
this.
guys.
I mean, okay. Now, you went into one of the no-go zones, right? And you went in. Were you wearing your yarmulke? Did they know that you were Jewish?
They did not know I was Jewish. My nose is slightly larger than
normal. No, don't get into that. But you walked in with a camera crew.
Yes.
That identified you as an outsider.
Correct.
They jumped you? Tell me.
They said, you guys have to leave right now. They gave us a little bit of a warning. My crew, they're smart. They took off. And I just said, listen, I just tried to explain what I was going to do, and that was it. 5 guys.
They jumped you?
Yep.
Beat you up?
Pretty good, yeah. They're pretty good.
And what was the response of the Swedish police?
The police said, listen, you can stay here for, a month or two, and you can go through the system, but we're not going there to find these guys, and it's going to end up being pointless.
Now, here in America, we're told, frequently told, that everything's going just fine in Europe. We know there are isolated incidents of culture clashes. We know about that. But we did not know that there were 30 or 40 no-go zones in a place like Sweden. What's going on? Why are we not getting the full story?
Well, first of all, Sweden has done a phenomenal job of trying to cover it up. So, for example, there were a series of music festivals in Sweden, and there were these gang rapes that went all across these music festivals. They specifically tried to hide the attacks themselves, but they couldn't because there were just so many victims. It wasn't dissimilar to what happened in New Year's Eve in Germany.
In Cologne, yes.
Exactly.
Right.
Same thing, where the government is specifically trying to cover it up, and more than that, what they're desperately trying to do is cover up the ethnicity of the people making the attacks.
Why?
Because
they know they've got a problem,
yes,
and they know they can't do a thing about it.
They're doubling down. They're bringing as many migrants as they possibly can to Sweden.
Well, what do the Swedes think about this? Good Lord.
The Swedes they're not Vikings. The Vikings are gone. They're a sweet people. They want to help, and if you bring up the ethnicity of any of these attackers, the first thing they say to you is you're a racist. You're a racist to bring it up. That's the problem you're dealing with.
This is incredible. I mean, I'm shocked by this. Now, you took video, I take it.
Of course.
And you're organizing it, right? And you're going to make it. Is it a documentary you're making?
It's like a short 8-minute video we do for Fox.
When you've done it, can we see some of it?
I think we can arrange that.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you very much indeed. We'd like to see that.
Okay, if you Google Ami Horowitz and just Google his name, you can find a number of little short clips about what happened to him when he went to Sweden and other places here in America. I'm going to play one at the other side of the break, about a 4-minute clip when he was in Minneapolis. You'll be shocked to see what's going on there. And it appears to me that the powers that be want to keep this quiet as they are working together with the Jesuits. This is their plan. You see, our leaders have sold this out. And nothing proves it more than Obama's policies for the last 8 years, both domestic and foreign. And this huge migration of people who want to overthrow countries like Sweden, Norway, France, Belgium, Italy, it goes on, Germany. And if you read Hammond's book that I mentioned, you will see how it really operates and what really is going on today. And so if you put that together, then you add the component that's always missing in these news reports, and that's the Vatican Jesuit component overseeing this, as mentioned by, Prince Charles, who said he met this Jesuit priest in Syria. I wonder if that was Father Dall'Oglio that we've talked about, who actually worked as a CIA agent to funnel arms to grow ISIS. He's been in Syria most of his life. You see, Jesuits send these people, and they become experts in the language, in China, all over the world. And so it's not unusual. They want to create this conflict now. For what? People go, what, Greg? What are they doing? And I said, it's very simple. One world order, a one world religion, one world government, everything under their control. And they have to kill off Christians and Jews and any other thing in their way to get there. That's why Western civilization must come to its knees. Now when? I'm telling you, I'm not a fortune teller, but we're going to live through some tough times in the future. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal on this December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. This will be my last show before December 25th, and we can't ignore Christmas. And I've got something planned as far as a little bit about the Christmas holiday in the last part of this segment. But I do want to finish with Ami Horowitz and when he was in Minneapolis. But before I do that, let me mention this. The radio station does YouTubes of every one of my shows, and there's a guy that listens to a lot of them, and on a lot of the comments he says, I'm a sellout because I have not dealt with the flat earth issue. And obviously hasn't listened to my shows in the past, and I've dealt with that issue many times. And what made me think about that was Neil Cavuto. What I do is I listen to Fox News and CNN so I can present some kind of argument here that they are not covering the whole story. And he said something. He was talking about climate change, global warming, and he didn't agree with it. And he said, just because all the experts say that global warming exists, don't believe that. Do your own research. Then he said, just remember when Copernicus came, and no one believed that Copernicus's theory of the earth wasn't the center of the universe, and it was a globe, and it wasn't flat, and just see how flat out wrong he was. Well, you see, he's not giving you the full story, because if you really do a lot of research, the globe earth and the universe theory, they have no factual it has no factual basis to exist. It is the consensus of all of these experts who are presenting a theory that Copernicus, first of all, was an occultist. And how did he come up with that theory? When he couldn't even, he couldn't even fly in an airplane. So when you started realizing, and then all of a sudden about 2 years ago or a year ago, the huge flat Earth theory came back on the internet. I thought about it even years before that when I used to go out and on the ocean, and I learned how to use a sextant. And in the old days, I started thinking, well, how is the Earth this way? The horizons just don't make sense. And so I started looking at that. And if the Earth was round and the curvature they tell us, we wouldn't be able to see as far off in the distance. Very simple, common sense. And when I started doing some research on that, I said, these people that are talking about the flat Earth have a valid point. Copernicus also was an occultist, so you know where this came from. So basically, then I did they say the sun is millions and billions of miles away. And when you take a sextant and you measure, it's only about 3,000 miles away. So I'm going to leave it at that. Go back to my old shows about the flat Earth. And I think they bamboozled us on all of this stuff. And NASA's a fraud. That is a complete fraud. And they just give you these computer-generated images. Okay, enough on that. I got to get back to Horowitz. So he was in Minneapolis. And he's showing you what's happened in that city, right here in America, right under our noses. And here we go. Here we go.
This is the Cedar Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis. It's known for the University of Minnesota, phenomenal ethnic food, and the export of American fighters to the terrorist groups ISIS and Al-Shabaab. In fact, it's reported that dozens of young Muslims from this community have gone to fight for these organizations. So we hit the street to find out what is going on. Is it easy to be Muslim in America? Or is it hard?
It's easy Muslim.
It's easy to be Muslim?
Yeah.
Nobody gives you problems?
No, it's no problem. This is a free country. That's the beauty of it. So we love America. I mean, it's a great country. Freedom of speech, freedom of choice of your religion.
Right.
So we don't have any issues.
Do you feel more comfortable living under American law, or do you feel more comfortable living under Sharia law?
Sharia law. I'm a Muslim. I prefer Sharia law. Sharia law, yes.
You prefer Sharia law over American law?
Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah.
And do you find most of your friends feel the same way?
Yeah, of course. If you're Muslim, yeah.
He can make his daughter marry somebody.
Yeah, he can. He has the authority,
The authority to do that.
Yeah, to do that, yeah.
So here, how young do you think it's okay?
15.
How do you feel when this whole controversy with the Prophet Muhammad and people depicting the Prophet in cartoons, how does the whole thing make you feel?
That really pisses me off, you know what I mean? Because they know it's a button to push. That makes me angry. It's just that everyone gets, like, the big freedom, and then they don't see that the freedom that they're getting is causing a problem. Now it's casting hatred for other people.
Would it be better if we made it illegal in America to make fun of the Prophet Muhammad?
Definitely, yeah.
But do you think we should make a law that makes it illegal to...
That would be better, yeah. That would be better. Yeah. To stop, aggression. I was so upset and I was so mad. They insulted our religion, they insulted our prophet, and we couldn't take it.
And they shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Oh my God. Big time, yes.
Do you understand the motivation behind the people then who strike out violently against people who depict the Prophet Muhammad?
Yeah, I understand totally where I'm coming from. Yeah.
You understand why they feel motivated to do that?
Yes, because when you every day you face frustration and every day you have you're mad or somebody say that or you feel hate yourself, you can do anything you want. You commit suicide, you don't care because your heart is telling you I don't want to live no more because you couldn't take that much hate or you kill someone.
In a way they kind of deserved it.
No, every action has a consequence.
Is it right to kill somebody who insults Muhammad?
Yeah, because she is just she had the religion, I understand, but she shouldn't pick up the Prophet,
So you understand why people would want to attack her?
Yeah.
If you had a choice, would you rather live here or would you rather live in a Muslim country?
I'd rather live in a Muslim country with my people.
Would you prefer to live in America or prefer to live in Somalia?
For me, I think it's Somalia.
Would you rather live in America or live in Somalia?
I would rather live in Somalia.
I'm not Americanized. I just speak fluent, and you know what I mean? I'm articulate, and I can articulate what I'm trying to say, you know what I mean? That's about it. But other than that, I mean, as far as my culture and my preferences and everything, it's still Somali, you know what I mean? Even though here you have all the freedom and stuff like that?
And even though I have all the freedom...
Do you think life might be better in Somalia than here?
Because now you have the freedom of it, of practicing your religion while working and doing your other things.
Okay, that was a bit of what Ami Horowitz found out in Minneapolis. And there's a number of little short clips you can find on that. He gets more in depth regarding what's really happening in these Muslim communities, not only in Minneapolis, but all over our country. And you can also see that there in Minneapolis, there's the Somalian schools there are actually teaching Sharia law, not the American Constitution. So remember what Hammond says in his book, as far as population growth of Muslims in a country. And if you believe what the Quran says, and as far as we went into the Bukhari, which are the traditions presented, the oral traditions presented in the Bukhari, written down to show you what Islam is all about, as it was created by the Vatican, I believe, and so do other researchers that are willing to talk about it. It's basically a religion that states they're intolerant to any other views. You heard that woman say that if a person, it's okay to kill somebody if they talk against the Prophet Muhammad. That doesn't seem to go along with our First Amendment rights here, does it? But anyway, enough on that, and we'll get more to that next year on the Investigative Journal as the years go on. So, seeing that it's the day before Christmas, let me present a few facts that we've presented many times before, but always nice to go back to. And like I said, no one really can definitely know the real birthday of Jesus. The Bible can get us close, and it's not December 25th, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the first recorded date of Christmas being celebrated on December 25th was in 336, during the time of the reign of the Roman Emperor Constantine. And he was the one who meshed paganism and Christianity. And a few years later, Pope Julius I officially declared that the birth of Jesus would be celebrated on the 25th of December. Now, there are many different traditions and theories as to why Christmas is celebrated on the 25th. A very early Christian tradition said that the day when Mary was told that she would have a very special baby, I don't know where that came from, probably the Catholics again, Jesus called the Annunciation, was on March 25th, and it's still celebrated today on March 25th. 9 months after the 25th of March is December 25th. March 25th was also the day some early Christians, which I believe was Vatican inspired, or whatever they were doing, inspiring the paganism and the Christianity. Some early Christians thought on March 25th, thought that the world had been made, and also the day that Jesus died when he was as an adult. Now, December 25th might have also been chosen, now this might be a better reason, because the winter solstice and the ancient pagan Roman midwinter festivals called Saturnalia and Dies Natalis Solis Invicti took place in December around this date, so it was a time when people already celebrated things in the pagan fashion. And so we understand that. You can go into the depth on, the winter solstice is the day where is the shortest time between the sun rising and the sun setting. It's a sun-worshipping day. It happens on December 21st and 22nd. To pagans, this meant that the winter was over and spring was coming. And so we've gone into that before. So Rome brings in the pagan holiday. Everyone worships Jesus on that day. Now, if you look at the Bible, how else do we know when Jesus? How do we know when Jesus was born? We do know that it couldn't have been the winter, and Luke 2:8 speaks about the shepherds near Bethlehem who were in the fields watching their flocks at night. Shepherds in that region did not keep their sheep out at night during the winter because it was too cold. Okay, so we understand that it couldn't have been December 25th. So when was it? Some people say it was September. And then you're going to see a lot on the internet, it was September 11th. Well, they're getting pretty specific there. I'm just going to leave it that it wasn't on December 25th. It was it was more or less, it had to be at a time when it was warmer. And you can research all of that yourself. Okay? Well, anyway, isn't that interesting? Yeah, so I've said many times, if you grow up a Catholic, you realize how many pagan ceremonies I went through when I was a kid? Incredible. So I'm kind of, I didn't like, thinking back, boy, I didn't like that deception. And that's why I like to bring these things up. Okay, in the last 12 minutes here, let me see if I can squeeze this in. I was sent an email, and this was by John Whitehead, and he said this: the radical Jesus, how would he fare in the American police state today? And I'm going to quote him and what he sent to me. I don't know if I can squeeze it in 12 minutes. If I talk fast, maybe. But he said Jesus was good. He was caring. He had powerful, profound things to say, things that would change how we view people. And when confronted by those in authority, he did not shy away from speaking the truth to power. Jesus was born into a police state back then, not unlike what's growing today in America. But what if Jesus, the revered preacher, teacher, prophet, and Son of God, had been born 2,000 years later? How would Jesus' life be today if he was raised in the American police state? And so he surmises this. He says, consider this. The Christmas narrative of a baby born in a manger is a familiar one. The Roman Empire, a police state in its own right, had ordered that the census be conducted. Joseph and his pregnant wife Mary traveled to the little town of Bethlehem so that they could be counted. There being no room for the couple at any of the inns, they stayed in a stable where Mary gave birth to that baby boy. Now, however, what if Jesus was born in 2016? Rather than traveling to Bethlehem for a census, Jesus' parents would have been mailed a 28-page American Community Survey, a mandatory government questionnaire, documenting their habits, household inhabitants, work schedule, how many toilets are in your home. The penalty for not responding to this mandatory government questionnaire in some states is the $5,000. Instead of being born in a manger, Jesus might have been born at home. Rather than wise men and shepherds bringing gifts, however, the baby's parents might have been forced to ward off visits from the state social workers, intent on prosecuting them for a home birth. One couple in Washington had all three of their children removed after social services objected to the two youngest being birthed in an unassisted home delivery. Had Jesus been born in a hospital, his blood and DNA would have been taken without his parents' knowledge or consent and entered into a government biobank. While most states require newborn screening, a growing number are holding on to that genetic material long-term for research, analysis, and purposes yet to be disclosed. Then again, had his parents been undocumented immigrants, they and the newborn baby might have been shuffled to a profit-driven private prison for illegals where they would have been turned into cheap forced laborers for corporations such as Starbucks, Microsoft, Walmart, Victoria's Secret. And there's a lot of money to be made from imprisoning immigrants, especially when taxpayers are footing the bill. And I might add that they might have been, if they were illegal immigrants, might have been given everything and put into nice housing for a time being, until the you-know-what hits the fan. And that's what I think. But from time to time, he was old enough to attend school. Jesus would have been drilled in lessons of compliance and obedience to government authorities, while learning little about his own rights. Had he been daring enough to speak out against injustice while still in school, or even mention the Word of God, I added that, he might have found himself tasered or beaten by a school resource officer, or at the very least suspended under a school zero-tolerance policy that punishes minor infractions as harshly as more serious offenses. Had Jesus disappeared for a few hours, let alone days as a 12-year-old like he used to, his parents would have been handcuffed, arrested, and jailed for parental negligence. Parents across the country have been arrested for far less offenses, such as allowing their children to walk to the park unaccompanied and play in their front yard alone. My goodness. I can relate to that. When I grew up, we still used to have kids used to have a little bit of freedom. I'd say, hey, I'm going out, Mom, see you later. And you wouldn't see me for a whole, I don't know, till the sun was coming down. I guess they would have been also called for child abuse or child neglect. How crazy. Now, let's look at this. From the moment Jesus made contact with an extremist such as John the Baptist, he would have been flagged for surveillance because of his association with a prominent activist, peaceful or otherwise. Since 9/11, the FBI has actively carried out surveillance and intelligence gathering operations on a broad range of activist groups, from animal rights groups to poverty relief, anti-war groups, and anything you can think of. Jesus' anti-government views would certainly have resulted in him being labeled a domestic extremist. Law enforcement agencies are being trained to recognize signs of anti-government extremism during interactions with potential extremists who share a belief in the approaching collapse of the government and economy. While traveling from community to community, Jesus might have been reported to government officials as suspicious under the Department of Homeland Security's See Something, Say Something programs. Many states, including New York, are providing individuals with phone apps that allow them to take photos of suspicious activity and report them to their state intelligence center, where they are reviewed and forwarded to law enforcement agencies. Rather than being permitted to live as an itinerant preacher, Jesus might have found himself threatened with arrest for daring to live off the grid or sleeping outside. In fact, the number of cities that have resorted to criminalizing homelessness by enacting bans on camping, sleeping in vehicles, loitering, and begging in public has doubled. Viewed by the government as a dissident and potential threat to its power, Jesus might have had government spies planted among his followers to monitor his activities, report on his movements, and entrap him into breaking the law. And that reminds me, that's exactly what they did to the Alamo ministry. To the T. They infiltrated it with their government agents, as we've proven, and they tried to get them to break the law, which they didn't. Interesting. Now, had Jesus used the internet to spread his radical message of peace and love, he might have had his blog posts infiltrated by government spies, attempting to undermine his integrity, discredit him, and plant incriminating information online about him. At the very least, he would have had his website hacked. Boy, I tell you, this guy's really getting to the point here. I've had that happen to me. Many times on the internet. It's incredible. And even had his emails monitored. Think of that. Had Jesus attempted to feed large crowds of people, he would have been threatened with arrest for violating various ordinances prohibiting the distribution of food without a permit. Florida officials arrested a 90-year-old man for feeding the homeless on a public beach. Had Jesus spoken publicly about his 40 days in the desert and his conversations with the devil, he might have been labeled mentally ill and detained in a psych ward against his will for a mandatory and voluntary psychiatric hold with no access to family or friends. One Virginia man was arrested, strip-searched, handcuffed to a table, diagnosed as having mental health issues, and locked up for 5 days in a mental health facility against his will, apparently because of his slurred speech and unsteady gait. Without a doubt, had Jesus attempted to overturn tables in a Jewish temple and rage against the materialism of religious institutions, he would have been charged with a hate crime. Currently, 45 states and the federal government have hate crime laws on the books. Rather than having armed guards capture Jesus in a public place, government officials would have ordered a SWAT team carrying out a raid on Jesus and his followers, complete the flashbang grenades and military equipment. Reminds me of the Alamo ministry. They took the SWAT team over there in 2008. There are upwards of 80,000 such SWAT team raids carried out every year. Isn't that interesting? 80,000 a year, and I've got 2 minutes to squeeze in a little bit here. Instead of being detained by Roman guards, Jesus might have been made to disappear into a secret government detention center where he would have been interrogated, tortured, and subjected to all manner of abuses. Chicago police disappeared more than 7,000 people into a secret off-the-books interrogation warehouse. Oh, wow. interesting. And it goes on just a little bit. I'm running out of time, but you get the point. You get the point here, don't you? And quite interesting. I want to thank that gentleman for sending that. And okay, his name's John Whitehead. Thanks, John. I told you I'd play it on the show. And quite interesting. I thought I'd end the show. What do you think's the greatest selling single record in the history of the United States? Or maybe the world? Yeah, it's Bing Crosby's White Christmas. I'm going to play a little bit of that. But remember this, that when the Vatican tried to change its image back after World War II, you saw a rash of these movies. Bing Crosby always played the priest in My Way, and all of those movies showing the Vatican as this benevolent group. And go back to some of those old movies, and the Vatican was desperate to change their image. And they did so. They used Bing. Why don't we play his voice? Great. I like the Christmas song, but we know where he stands. Here we go. Bing Crosby.
Be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white. Of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know. Where the treetops glisten, where the treetops glisten, and children listen, to hear sleigh bells in the snow.
Okay, that's our show. Have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all next week on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.